Welcome, everybody, to It Tastes Different Game Reviews. Today's game, Final Fantasy Stranger of Paradise. Today we're going to review Stranger of Paradise. It is developed by Team Ninja, Koei Tecmo, and Square Enix, published by Square Enix, and released the 15th of March. This is a reimagining, so-called Final Fantasy 1. Yeah. It's an interesting game. So Nick is probably the biggest Final Fantasy expert, especially on the OGs, the old pixels. So let's fire off with him first, and let's see how happy he was.
All right. I really like this game. I find it really fun. It seems to be like it almost seems to follow kind of like story-wise, like the origins of the Warriors of Light is what it seems to come off at. But I really enjoy this game a lot. I think it's a great co-op game. And I'm sure we'll probably get into it, but single player is a little bit to be desired, but co-op wise, I think it's a lot of fun. There's some changes I wish they had in co-op and some things I wish they would have done different in co-op, but I find that I find the game really fun in the co-op portion of it. I found the levels and everything to be, it's challenging and all the levels are kind of confusing and but they're overall a fun time. We'll probably get into some of the things that happen during the story as far as like no spoilers, but just how the gameplay kind of flow happens. But I think ultimately my initial thoughts of the game is I really enjoyed it. I liked it. It's a dungeon crawler, action RPG. And you get new weapons and new abilities and new armor pieces and stuff like that have power ratings and different stats and various things of that nature. And you got jobs. I mean, I love the job system. There's tons to choose from. So, I mean, and you can mix and match them and all sorts of stuff like that. So I think overall it's a really good foundation for, I'm hoping, and I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm hoping that maybe Team Ninja will make another one of these and maybe kind of fix some of the issues we have with the first one. Because I think ultimately this is a really fun game with your friends, and it could turn into a series for them where, I would look forward to playing this game again with my friends and going through, a Strangers of Paradise 2 or something like that. But yeah, that's what I think initially. What about you, Pat?
I would have to agree with that. I found the co-op was fun. The co-op was the best aspect of it. And I would agree there are some nuances about the co-op that drive me a little bit nuts that we kind of get into as time goes on. But single player, this game is very repetitive. It gets very repetitive after a while. There's some single player issues that I found that's kind of annoying, like leveling up your companions. They just seem to... You can run through a whole job in like a couple of levels, 2 or 3 levels at most, whereas the companions seem like they take like 10 levels to get a single job leveled up from start to finish. So there's no rhyme or reason, and I can't figure out if there's a way to make it go faster or anything like that. So, we played a lot of co-op, and what that meant was that when I decided to go single player, all my companion jobs were at level 1, and here I am, level 30 on that with gear just blowing crap out of the water, and they can't hit a wet noodle, to save their life. So there's just stuff like that that's kind of a weird nuance, but I do like that you can complete the whole game, just about the whole game, outside of a couple of single player cutscenes, or single player sessions, I should say, with co-op party. Like, I didn't have to redo a map because I ran it with Nick. And so we just ran the whole game together and then only got away from each other's group when it was time to do some single player content that was single player story part only. So I do like that, and it's a really good aspect, and I would play more. I'd say we completed the game in probably about 25 hours, maybe. I think it's about what we put into it. I think it's what I looked at my last playthrough time, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And that's a single playthrough. That's not doing, I mean, we've done some chaos missions and stuff like that, but that's a single playthrough to get you to the end of the end of the actual story. So fun game. Fun as co-op. Single player, I'm not that huge of a fan of. There's too many things that I don't like about the single player, but we can kind of get into that after everybody kind of gives their initial reviews. So Shane, what did you think of this iteration of Final Fantasy?
There's two games in there. You have the single player thing, and then you have the co-op. The co-op I greatly enjoyed. I think the combat wasn't as mashy as I was expecting it to be. There was more skill thrown in there than I was expecting. So that was a nice surprise. The um, the magic I never used. I never went with a mage. I fiddled with it once in a while, but I never really got into it. So I stuck with smashers and swordsmen. Like Nick said, there's a ton of jobs, a ton. I still think I have one more to unlock. Um, I enjoyed the story at the end. The story is a little convoluted, especially if you don't know the full lore of Final Fantasy One. Because I don't, I know a little bit, but I'm not Nick. I don't have that crap memorized and tattooed on my butt cheek. Um, but at the end, though, they give you this 6 hour long cutscenes, and it really it stitches it all together. It really, why didn't I figure that? So I really enjoyed that. Technically, the game ran really well with only a few minor hiccups. I had one big hiccup where the game locked up and I'm just running into a wall. I could hear these guys, but they couldn't hear me. The character changed over to AI. It was weird. So I had to kill the box and fire it back up. But other than that, the co-op is a blast with your friends. It really is. The game gets freaking hard at times, not Demon Souls hard, um, but it gets pretty hard. The single player portion, that's where I had issues. That's where the game sucked. Just it really, I don't want to be a dick, but just sucked. I don't like the way the AI works for your companions, because it seems like they literally have no purpose of being there because they hardly do anything. I mean, I ran with one of my casters, and one was a pugilist, a brawler. They didn't seem to do squat. And that bugged me. I mean, they would like throw a punch and he would run away like, oh my god, and that was it. So we could complain about single player a little bit more. I think that's the biggest thing between the three of us that we had a problem with. So, but overall, the game is fun. Um, I was surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did, because normally when I see Final Fantasy, I love it. I see Final Fantasy, some oddity behind it. I've been burned way too many times. So, I thought it was going to be Spirits Within kind of crap, but it wasn't. So, now we can fire over to what really burnt our butts the most. And Pat, I believe this is where you will prevail. And what burnt you the most?
I don't know if I could say what burnt me the most. I mean, really, it was just that whole. I mean, but the last boss. The last boss is all single player, right? The last boss is kind of a douche, and you can't really paragraph. So the game has an added level of difficulty to it. And for the most part, if you're running into something where you just really can't do it, you can kind of somewhat out level it, and so you can run side missions and stuff to get higher level gear. But the last boss, you ain't going higher than the last boss until you beat him, and you can unlock chaos level difficulty so that you can out level all that. The last boss was very cheesy. His level of difficulty, in my opinion, was there because all he did was constantly swing, constantly hit. You couldn't do any range. So I played a mage, which at the end of that game hosed the shit out of me, because the last boss, you cannot stay away from him. If you have any distance between you and him, he just basically casts on you constantly. You can't stop and cast. So there's stupid things like that. But that was just the last mission. I'll tell you, I enjoyed the game thoroughly until the last part of the game where it soloed me. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've been playing a whole game with all my companions and friends. And now the last hour of the game, I have to play by myself as my only character, as Jack. And I'm like, you're really pissing me off here, guys, because now I'm having to learn to do some stuff that I'm not used to because I'm attacking all these caster classes and stuff by myself when I'm used to being able to like basically divide and conquer, you know? And so you figure it out and everything. But the very last boss, I will tell you, is the stupidest freaking fight in the entire game because you have to do it by yourself. And the boss is relentless. And, you know, so that was my biggest complaint. But that's just because, like I said, the game has you run 98% of it as you're with your companions, whether that's single player with two other bots, AIs. And as Shane said, they're kind of worthless anyway, but at least they act as fodder for you. So you can go pull your enemy out of the group and let those guys over there get the crap beat out of them by the other enemies. And you come in and just keep peeling them off one by one and taking them out. Or you go in as a group and do a big group AoE on them and stuff like that. I really enjoyed the game. I mean, there's a lot of variety. There's a lot more variety than I expected. And what I mean by that is I went into the game going, how can there really be this much variety in a game that has just some jobs? But there's only 8 different weapons. And you're like, okay, how much variety can there be with 8 different weapons? But there's like 28 damn jobs in this thing. And I'm like, how the hell am I going to level up all these? And so I didn't level all of them up. I picked a few that I liked and then spent my anima shards on leveling them up outside of that. But there are 28 jobs, people, in this game. 28 once you beat the game. There's 27 until you beat the game. And so it's really fun. But it does get a little bit repetitive after a while because it's just once you get your classes picked, your 2 classes or jobs, I should say, your 2 jobs picked, you kind of stick with those. At least I did anyway. And I did a couple of things to learn and play, and I liked a few of them, but I ended up sticking with a really good, you know, breaker mage combo that worked out really well for me. But outside of that last little part where the boss went completely cheese dicked on me, I thought it was good. What about you, Nick? I mean, do you have any biggest gripes? I know that's your kind of game right there. You just smack your face into the wall many times and cheese grate the crap out of it until you beat it.
He is into that crap.
And I did. I think the biggest gripe for me, I have a lot of little ones, right? I don't have a real big one. I don't think there was any big gripes for it. There was just a lot of little things that I wish was changed. For example, in the maps, some of the maps can get very confusing, and they can get to the point where you're running in circles because you can't remember if you've been down this hallway or not. So I think a mini map would have been perfect, and I wish they would have included that because there's many times that we ran through maps several times going in circles trying to find a door or a hallway that we just did not see. And I would agree. In the single player, it's like your companions. The AI is horrible for them. I think that's the main takeaway for the single player portion is the AI is just not there, right? It definitely seems like this game was meant to play co-op. Even though it has a single player component, it feels like this was meant for co-op, right? And the only other annoyance I would have is in co-op when your co-op companions get new outfits, they can put that stuff on, which is good. The only thing is it doesn't change them visually. It does for you as the host, as being Jack. If you host, you're going to be Jack. It changes it for you, but for them, it does not. Now, once you can get out of the room, get out of the hosting, and you can go ahead and change those companions to make them look different. And then that's how they'll look when your friends play. But I don't like the fact that my friends can't change the equipment and have it visually look different. It does for the weapons, but it does not for the outfits and stuff. And that's, even though that's not really a problem, right? Because they're still getting the stat increases because they are putting these items on. It's just annoying saying like, why am I the only one changing outfits and everyone else is stuck in the same, sneakers and joggers on or something like that. So those are the 2 things that most annoyed me about it. But I think if they fix those things and fix some of the little issues with the game, like I said, a number 2 would be pretty cool, especially if they added, I don't know, even more jobs, right? In some other system. One thing also that I do like is once you've completed this game, like Patrick said, you open up the chaos difficulty, and from there you can actually go above and beyond the in-game equipment level. So there is an in-game after you beat it that you can enjoy with your friends, and that's really cool aspect of the game as well. What about you, Shane? What annoyed you?
Just oddities of choice. Um, like Pat said, the end boss was just an a-hole straight up. The difficulty on him was atrocious. I had to dumb it down. I can't even lie. We were playing normal the entire time, and it was hard in areas, but we did good overall. Not that big a deal. But the last boss, um, he was just such a waffle stomper. You couldn't stay at a distance because he had great range overall. You couldn't stay in close because he could do a swing or a stomp on you. It just felt like, and it was just a constant barrage. I mean, there was no breather. So it was just tap, tap, roll out, tap, tap, rolled in, dodge, dodge a million times. So I had to dumb it down, and it was still slightly difficult, even on the easier level. But I got through it. So I felt there was some areas of the game that weren't quite designed for the situation we were in. The end boss was that way. There was one of the side missions we tried to do as well that seemed really odd. We had to defeat three bosses, and the first one that you get is such a spammer of poison. The entire map gets covered for the most part. So by the time you get through him, you got squat life left if you do get through him, and then you got two more bosses, and that was at the normal difficulty. It seemed like the bosses spammed a little too much in some areas, and that was just a real annoyance. And we got through most of them just fine, but we never did complete that one just because the way the level worked, it was just, instead of building up to difficulty, it just foobarred you right off the bat because the next two bosses ain't near as bad. So it's just odd choices like that. And when you first start the end sequencing of the end game, that's when I noticed that they put you in a position where it just seemed like it was just overkill. It was odd ways to put you in a position. Like one point, it was almost all magic being thrown at you, and it was a pain. Then you had the giant ogre as well. So I don't know. I think there was some leveling issues with the game. Was probably my biggest problem. But I do enjoy the game now. I mean, it's a fun co-op. I mean, the three of us had a great time. I would like to see a sequel fix our complaints. But overall, it's a really, really good game. Fixing things would be great, some patchwork. But I enjoyed all the weapons that I got to use, and you could definitely tell there was a difference between the sword master and the sword fighter. It's like it seemed like two odd names, but you get your equipment going, and you can feel that difference. I was surprised. So I enjoyed the overall, and I think it was definitely worth the money. I just wish they would fix certain things in it, mainly along the difficulty side, because me and Pat, we're not Nick. We don't like that cheese grater across our nips. That's Nick. We want to have a difficult but easy and able to complete it within a few tries, not sit there for an hour and a half just grating your nips. I don't like that. So.
Yeah, that last boss, like getting him down to 16th or an 8th, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm not that shitty of a player getting him down like that. And it's all that too proud to go down to story mode stuff, and I'm just like, oh, you're getting to me. Yep. I mean, you can tell it's designed for a co-op game. I mean, because when you run single player, you don't even get Phoenix Downs. I mean, you go down in a single player game with your two companions, you can't use a Phoenix Down. You're just done. And I don't get that. It's like, so they're saying that when you're playing single player, you're just adding another layer of difficulties, and all you get is your potions. and then no Phoenix down. So you can't go down at all. You go down, game over. Your companions can't pick you up. They can't do anything, which to me is just kind of an odd thing to do. But overall, even with the visual issue, like Nick said, you can't change out outfits of anybody except Jack while you're playing co-op, because you don't your co-op companions don't pick Jack. They pick whoever you decide you're going to throw in your party. So if it's the other two, if it's Ash and Jed, or if it's Sophia and I can't remember the other girl's name, or one of those companions, Neon, yeah, Sophia or Neon, any one of those 4 characters they can put as their other 2 companions. You play as them, and you're stuck the entire co-op session in the gear that he put them in before you started the session. And there's just random weird little bugs, which is new game to be expected. They weren't like game-breaking bugs, but there's no store in the game. You have to disassemble items that you no longer want to use to upgrade those other items future on in the game. But I found that marking items for disassembly was the most painstaking thing in the game, because there's no quick way to do it. You can hold down Y and just scroll all the way to the bottom, but it doesn't differentiate between items that are equipped on your party and not. And what I mean by that was, so many times I would just go through, dismantle, and click everything, and I'd come back to my character and she's got no pants on. And I'm like, where the hell did your pants go? And I must have accidentally disassembled them or something. And I'm like, what? In what world can I disassemble something that I'm wearing without an error that says, hey, you're disassembling something that you have equipped on one of your companions or something? So minor nuances like that. I mean, you have to just pay extra attention. So something that should take like a few seconds to get rid of items in your inventory that are unwanted, because you have a max inventory limit. When you hit that, you can't pick anything up. And that's horrible, because that means you're no longer gaining levels through equipment. So weird little nuances like that just need to be fleshed out and cleaned up. I can't believe during any type of beta testing or internal dev testing that somebody didn't go, hey, this is annoying as hell. How do we make this better? Select all not equipped equipment and sell it, or dismantle it, not sell it. And you can't equip your companions if you're in a multiplayer game with somebody. So every now and then we would have to just sever our connection to Nick, load out our companions and ourselves, dismantle everything, and then hop back in the game so that we didn't fill up our inventory limit. So it may sound like we have a lot of qualms and gripes about this, but it really is a fun game if you have friends. I would highly recommend this game if you had 2 friends to play with. If it's just you, I'd probably wait for this game to go on sale. And to me, it's not a Final Fantasy game. To me, it's a weird game that has a Final Fantasy name on it, and then it kind of sheds some light. Like, I'm not a big lore person on Final Fantasy. I don't know a whole lot about the lore, but this game is supposed to be a reimagining of the original game, so it makes a lot more. The game makes a lot more sense what the other games do now that playing this one and seeing the end game and the darkness and chaos and all that kind of crap. So it makes more sense. But if you're playing this as a single player, I would wait for it to go on sale if you don't have any friends to play with.
Yeah, I will give this game 1 credit. I'll give Square Enix 1 credit. Out of any game Square Enix has published and or made in the last, I don't know how many years, this is probably the easiest one we've ever been able to join online with each other. Every other one they've done has been a disastrous joke where you got to get each other's social security cards and some DNA and put it in your Xbox or something. This was just a nice, simple way to do it. Thank you for not making it all convoluted and stupid.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy
I guess the last
13
thing
was terrible.
Right. I guess the last thing for me is, I would agree with Pat. If you have some friends to play this game with, go pick it up today. I think it's definitely worth the price. I think this game's $60. It's definitely worth the price. If you have a couple of buddies that want to play this game as well, you're going to have a fun time with it. If you like that dungeon crawling action RPG style gameplay where you get loot and stuff like that, you can do it all with your friends. I mean, like what, 95% of it with your friends, right? There's a few times it puts you into a single player, but most of it's with your co-op buddies. Then you're going to have a great time with it. So it's definitely worth it. Like, if you're missing out on some sort of co-op game to play, perfect timing. And we don't have a lot right now, co-op wise, to play together. I mean, there are a few coming out, but this is a perfect time to just grab, hop into this and play with your buddies. If you don't, and I'm sorry that you don't, but if you don't, and it's playing single player, Yeah, I would definitely wait. The AI is pretty bad. Your companion AIs are pretty bad. They don't help out at all. And like Pat said, I don't understand the designer's decision either to not give you Phoenix Downs when you're playing with your co-op buddies. If you go down, they can either revive you or you can use a Phoenix Down to come back up. And everyone gets the party gets 3 together, together, and whoever uses them that uses up that pool of 3. But when you're playing with your AI, if you go down, they don't get you up. It's just game over, which is really weird. Like, why don't they get you up? Or why don't you have ability for Phoenix Downs? I don't understand that. It's almost like they're trying to make you not play in single player. Or if you really want to play the really difficult mode, play in single player. That's like beyond chaos.
Single player chaos is like you're a huge masochist.
Yeah,
you're the leader
Nick
of the
level.
masochist. Yeah, you're Nick level.
I'm not the leader. I wouldn't play this game
But-
chaos single player. Well, maybe I might do that fight, but
But overall, the game is good. I agree. Unless they patch the single player portion AI, I would wait for a sale. But if you got 2 buddies, it's worth $60. So it's like I said, it's 2 games. It's the single player and then the co-op version. The co-op is great to play. The single player, not as much, by a lot. So, you guys got anything else? All right. That's over. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, and click the notifications. All the good stuff. Don't forget to tell your friends and let us know if you've played it. Let us know what you think about Final Fantasy in general. Huge fan myself. Nick is an Uber fan, so he knows all the lore. He's got all their middle names and birthdays and crap figured out. So, but let us know what you think. And if you have any questions or comments for us, just put them in there. And until next time, see ya.